Good afternoon, everybody. I hope your Thursday is going well. Greetings from the lovely and beautiful Commonwealth of Virginia. Well, the purpose of today's video is just to uh, talk about some very annoying features on new and late model vehicles. Um, this is based upon personal observation, vehicles I've owned, driven, or ridden in with other people, or some that I've rented. Um, while on vacation, traveling, etc. The first one is the electric parking brake. With almost every new vehicle now, you have a little button that you push or you pull up on it, and that activates your parking brake. It's electric. So when you pull it up, you hear this little zzz, and that basically locks your back brakes. It's like an emergency brake or a parking brake. I long for the days of when you had a handle where you would pull it up and ratchet it, and it would only go on when you pushed a little button on the end and pulled up on it. The only vehicle I know of that still is made with that is the Mazda Miata. Maybe there's other ones, I don't know, but it seems like almost everything, like a Honda Civic, Accord, Camry, they all just have the button on there. My car is a 2021 Mazda CX-30. It's a small SUV and it has the electric parking brake on it. And the default position is when you pull up, you put it in park, and you shut off the engine, it'll go bzz, and it activates. Well, if you hold down on it before you shut off the engine, you hold down on it 2 or 3 seconds, it'll go beep, beep, and then you can shut it off and it will not engage. With an automatic transmission, there's no reason to use a parking brake if you're on flat level ground. If you're on a steep hill, yeah, it can make it easier on your automatic transmission because if you're on a steep hill and you park, you pull the parking brake while your car is in neutral and then put it in park. It there's a little thing in there. It's like a spline with a little like a piece sticking into a gear. It makes it easier on your transmission to put it back into reverse when you go to back out or in drive if you go to leave. But there's really no need to use that parking brake. Um, the thing is, it'll also you run the chance of it maybe if it's a really cold weather, really cold night, and you park it and you pull that thing, you engage it. What if it's really cold and there's moisture in there and it freezes and you can't get it unstuck? It's not a good position to be in. But anyway, that's sort of a minor gripe, but it's just something else to go wrong with a vehicle that's more complicated than it needs to be. The other thing is the automatic stop start feature. I've rented cars that have this, and it is totally annoying. This is where you come to a stop sign or a red light, and if you're there for half a second, your engine will shut off. Then when you let go of the brake, it starts again. Well, in 2019, my wife and I were in Phoenix, and in 2020, we were in Orlando, where both places get very hot in the summertime. And when that thing shuts off, your air conditioner shuts off. So your blower still is blowing, but you're not getting cold air. Very annoying. And on the 2019 and 2020 model, we had a Buick and a Chevy Malibu, I believe it was, and you couldn't you couldn't disable it. You couldn't bypass it. It was so annoying. I drove with 2 feet, so I always kept my foot on the brake when we were stopped and just tap the gas a little bit, and it would keep it from shutting off. Okay, so you're going to save maybe a tenth of a mile per gallon, but you're going to wear the hell out of your starter. That's just something else to go wrong. Now, newer vehicles, we rented a vehicle in Germany. I would believe it was a Toyota CHR. It was a hybrid. I think it had an automatic shut off bypass, but every time you get in the vehicle, you have to push that button. I think it was an A with a little circle on it or something, but you had to touch it every time you started it, and then it wouldn't shut off the engine when you came to a stop. I we rented a Fiat, we rented a Volkswagen, and all of them had the shut off. And there was another vehicle we rented. I think it was an Opel. It was an SUV when we were in the Canary Islands, and it had a button on it. Maybe that was Croatia. I don't remember. We've been to so many places, but it did have a button. But the thing is, every time you shut the vehicle off, you go into a store, you come out, you get back in, you have to hit that every time you start it. You have to disengage it. So I know Audis and BMWs, and I think Mercedes has it in theirs now. It's just one of those things that's annoying. They put it in there so they can try and get the most fuel mileage to satisfy the corporate fuel economy standards. But just something irritating to go up. It's harder on your starting system. You probably have to start the AC compressor. It's going to cause wear in other parts, so it's not worth it. But another thing is the push button start versus a key. Now, a lot of people think that's convenient. You get in, you push it, you just have a fob. Well, if you have an old school key, it's pretty hard to damage an old school key. And if your battery in your fob goes bad, then it'll say no key detected. Then you've got to hold the thing up somewhere until it can sense the chip, and then it'll start it. That's kind of irritating. I used to always carry an extra set of keys with me, or an extra key. We don't Cars haven't used two keys probably since the 80s, but um I used to carry an extra key with me in my pocket so that I wouldn't accidentally lock myself out of the car. Nowadays, if you try and get out of the car and the key fob is in there, it'll go beep 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 beep, beep. Another thing that can happen with some cars, which happened to my old Altima, I started the car in the morning for my wife so she could go up to Kroger. Well, I started the car, warmed it up. She got in the car, went to Kroger. About 45 minutes later, I get an angry phone call. Well, I had the key fob with me. She took off in the car and obviously couldn't start it. So I had to get in the other car and drive with the key to Kroger to get my angry wife back in the car so she could drive home. But with the old school key, you could, I don't know, like let's say you had your air conditioner on, you had your dog in the car or something. You could leave the engine running and lock the door and go into the post office to get your mail or come back out without having to worry about somebody taking off with your car. With the key fob, if you have it started and you get out of the car, you can't, as far as I know, there's no way to lock it securely. And if it's unlocked, somebody could still steal your car without the key fob. They just wouldn't be able to restart it when they got where they were going. But by then they would have stolen your car and they'd be far away by now. I just, and trunk, opening your, what if you're going to open the trunk and your key fob doesn't work? I guess you can stick your finger under there and open it up, but it'd still be nice to have a key as a standby. Or if your battery is dead, how do you unlock your car? We've got the ones where you touch your hand on it and it opens. Well, I know you can take the little thing out of there and use it, but it's just an extra aggravation. I guess I'm just old school. I'm a dinosaur in that regard. But another thing that's kind of a pain with newer cars is the sealed automatic transmission. Most cars made within the past 10 years or so, they don't have a dipstick. I have an old 2000 F-150, and I can check the transmission level and the condition of the fluid, pull out the dipstick, you see it's pink, it's at the right level, doesn't smell burnt, you're good to go. But with other cars that are sealed, you can't tell the condition of your fluid. And my Mazda is supposed to be lifetime fluid. You never change it. Well, what's a lifetime? After your car is out of warranty and you got it paid off, maybe you have 100,000 miles on it, your transmission goes. Well, that's planned obsolescence. You have to go back. You're not going to pay $5,000 for a transmission on a car that is worth $5,000 or less. Even a car worth 10 grand, you're gonna put 5 grand into a transmission. It's like they design these things to not last long. It used to be you could take if you had a turbohydromatic 400 or a Ford C6 or a Chrysler 727 Torque Flight, every 30,000 miles or so, you drop the pan, you change out that fluid, and some of them have a filter inside. You change that out, and you put it back in there, and you're good to go. Now the thing is, a lot of companies like to flush your transmission, but that is often worse for the long life of it than to just change the fluid. They make it so it's not easy to do. The only vehicle I know that was easy to change the transmission fluid was Saturn. They had an oil filter that looked just like an oil filter on the transmission, and they actually had a drain plug, so you could drain the transmission and change the filter. Saturn didn't stick around. It wasn't because they were bad cars. It was just, I guess they were cannibalizing too much of General Motors' other vehicles. People weren't buying Saturns in order to get away from buying imports. They were buying Saturns instead of Chevrolets or Pontiac, Oldsmobiles or Buicks. And you'll notice that Saturn went away about the same time that I think Pontiac went away in '08. Oldsmobile went away in 2004. Saturn went away sometime around there, and so did Saab, all owned by General Motors. Interesting. Um, Something else that new cars have is a lane departure warning system. Now, maybe it does save lives, it keeps people in their lane, but if you've ever driven through a construction zone, I used to have a Honda Accord that I gave to my stepdaughter, but that thing, you're going down the road and all of a sudden the steering wheel would like pull you off. They had the where it went where the lines were painted, but sometimes the road was ending and that really wasn't where the road was going. And another thing about the lane departure system, you would go, you're on a 2-lane road in a residential area and there's some lady on a bicycle and she's not right up against the curb, she's out in the lane a little bit, so you would kind of go, nobody's coming, you go on the other side of the orange line just a little bit and your car will try and turn you back into the person, the pedestrian or the bicyclist on the side of the road. That's kind of dangerous. I do like the blind spot warning system. That's kind of convenient. It makes a little blinking orange light in your side view mirror. My old Ford pickup doesn't have them, but whenever I buy a car, whether it's new or used or how new or how old, I get those little convex mirrors and mount them on the outside corner of my side view mirrors so I don't have blind spots. So that's the old trucker in me that does that. You rely on your mirrors. I don't like to always rely on sensors. I do like the backup cameras in new cars. Those are pretty good. But sometimes those blind spot warning systems, if you're in a intersection where there's 2 lanes turning left and you put on your blinker and there's somebody next to you, it'll start going beep, 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 beep at you. So, but that's a blessing and a curse. You learn to live with it. It's just if you're not used to it, all these gadgets get to you. Um, Something that if you have certain cars, they have cylinder deactivation. This is Corvettes have them, and the Chevy Silverado pickup truck has it, and I believe the Dodge Ram pickup truck has it too. I don't think Ford does it with any of their vehicles, but it basically shuts down 4 of your cylinders on a V8, which, yeah, you're going to get maybe a half a mile to 1 mile per gallon improvement, but your V8 engine is not a Prius. It's not meant to run on 4 cylinders. The Chevy Silverados have had a lot of long-term problems with that. They call it AFM, automatic fuel management system, and I think Dodge calls it the cylinder deactivation system or something like that. But anyway, it allows a V8 to get better mileage if you're cruising on the highway and you're not under load. But you really don't want to be running your valve train because your valve train doesn't stop. You don't want to be running that dry. That's just something about that skeeves me. You can buy with a General Motors, you can buy it's called a range AFM device. It plugs into your OBD port and it'll bypass that. It'll deactivate it. I don't know if you can do that with a Chrysler product or not. Um, Something else that's more of it's a minor complaint, but to me, if you own a pickup truck, my 2004 F-150 has a gear shift on the column. I used to have a Silverado, same way. And then had the nice console. The Silverado had one that folded down, where you could have a nice big center console to keep stuff in, CDs and, maybe some air fresheners or whatever in the middle. And you fold it up and you could have 3 sit in the front seat and 3 in the back. You could hold 6 people. The F-150 just has a big, nice center console in the middle. It won't work as a seat, so you can't put somebody in the middle, but it's a huge console. You could put a 12-pack of soda or some other beverage in that little area in the middle. It's really generous, and it has 4 cup holders right up in the front. But the gear shift is up on the column where it belongs. I notice a lot of new vehicles, especially Fords, have the gear shift in the center console. Well, that just takes up extra space, and some of them have it where the gear shift actually, the handle actually folds down electrically. That's something else that's going to go wrong. Now, how'd you like to be out in the middle of nowhere? You got your wife in the car with you and you're getting ready to go home after eating dinner or something, and the gear shift handle won't pull up. Well, now you're SOL. Now you probably have to call a tow truck. and take it to the dealer, and they probably have to take the whole thing apart. They make it complicated on purpose, and it just, it looks cool when it's new, but what's it going to happen, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100,000 miles down the road? I mean, some of those new trucks are nice, but it's just more stuff to go wrong. Um, the cruise control, the forward cruise control, which it sets you can set your cruise control at a particular speed, and it'll keep you a set distance from the vehicle in front of you. But sometimes those things are overly sensitive and it'll slow you down. And then the guy behind you in the left lane is wondering, what are you doing? Then he's going to go around you on the right and make a risky move. So with our vehicles, you can turn that off, but the default position is that the automatic cruise control always comes on when you start the car. You have to manually disengage it. I think it should, when I set my settings the way I want it, it should stay that way. If I shut the vehicle off and I get back in, it should return to my settings. I shouldn't have to full fart with moving everything around. Um, I do like buttons on the steering wheel, but sometimes when I'm driving my old pickup truck, I love the simplicity of uh, I have a dial for adjusting the airflow and the temperature, and whether I want it to be on defrost or whatever. There's like three dials right there. Simple. On the new cars, you've got to worry about setting the temperature and all this other stuff, digital, and then you set it to a temperature, and then the fan turns on really high. So you turn on the heat, it's cold. The fan level turns up high, so it's blowing an Arctic blast at you. Well, I'd rather keep the fan level low till it warms up a little bit, and then maybe turn the fan up to the second or third speed. Just, a minor inconvenience, but it just shows you the difference. The other thing is the power driver's seat. Most vehicles now have an electric driver's seat. I'm actually kind of old school in that regard. I don't care much for that. Whenever my wife and I drive, I'm taller than she is, so she rides with the seat farther up. I ride with it back. I get in the vehicle and I'm like banging my knees, and I have to hold that button and go until it moves back. There's another thing that's going to break. Um, I like the old vehicles where you get in it and you just pull up on the bar and just slide back, or you pull up on the bar and slide forward. It's simple. As far as I know, I've never heard of one breaking. It's something else that's not going to short out or go bad. Um, every vehicle now that I know of has power windows. Um, crank windows are, if you could buy a vehicle with crank windows, I'm sure there's a market for that. I enjoy having power windows, but having crank windows never really bothered me that much. Just if you're driving down the road and it starts raining and you want to put up the passenger window, that's kind of an irritant, but it's something less to go wrong. Um, some of these vehicles now have gasoline direct injection and turbocharging together, and that can be really hard on your engine oil. A lot of new vehicles call for 0W20 oil, which is what my Mazda uses. My pickup truck uses 5W20, and my wife's Camry uses 0W8. I never knew there was such a thing as 0W8. That seems awfully thin, but that's a hybrid vehicle. But you know, the Mazda we have calls for 0W20, and that's what I use in it until the warranty is over. And then I'll probably switch to 5W30. But the Mazda, the same exact car in Germany, they use 5W30. Most cars in Germany seem to use 5W30 as their oil instead of 0W20, and it gets cold over there. Um, maybe their summers aren't quite as hot as here, but even the Mazda in Mexico uses 5W30. Um, I know the 0W20 is what they want for ideal fuel economy to meet the EPA standards, but there's something to be said about the 5W30, and 5W30 in full synthetic is still going to flow very, very well in the wintertime. I could I could understand always using 0W20 if you live in Minnesota or if you live in Alaska or something, but um, here in Central Virginia, I believe 5W30 is better. I'm going to use 0W20 until the warranty runs out, which will be sometime early in 2026. Then after that, I may switch to 5W30. I've seen a lot of videos and I've read a lot of material about that where they've taken engines and tested them. The main thing is your oil more often than you're supposed to. I think Mazda specifies a 7,500 or a 10,000 mile oil change interval with 0W20 synthetic. That's crazy. I do mine between 4 and 5,000. I change it myself and I use 0W20. It doesn't burn any oil or anything. My mileage is good, but after the warranty is out, I may try switching to 5W30 and see if I notice a difference. See if it uses more gas. They say that your fuel economy might drop by a tenth of a mile per gallon or something like that. But I plan on keeping that car a long time, and 5W30 is probably a much better oil if you have hot weather or you want to extend your change interval. I'm probably still going to change it the same amount of mileage because I can get a 5 quart jug of 0W20 and a Fram filter for like probably $30. And with the mileage I drive, that's like twice a year I change it. So maybe 3 times a year. But it's easy to do on that car. The pickup truck is pretty easy too, but that's my secondary vehicle. I don't drive it that much. But it says to use 5W20, and I think it calls for synthetic blend. I bought that truck used and I've changed the oil twice in the past year. And I just use 5W20 Mobil 1 full synthetic. And it takes 7 quarts though. The Mazda takes 5. Um, my, let's see, some cars only take like 4 quarts. I think the Honda Accord takes 4. I know my son has a Honda Accord. I believe, if I recall correctly, it calls for like 3.5 or something, but it takes 4. It takes a little over 4 to get it to the full mark if you change the filter too. So don't just go by what your, owner's manual says. Yes, go by it, but when you change your oil and you refill it, check it and then drive it for a couple miles and then check it on level ground again after it's been sitting. And you'll find that a lot of times it'll be half a quart low. But anyway, well, those are just some of the things that I've peculiarities about newer vehicles. Um, a lot of them also have the tire pressure sensors, and some people seem to have problems with those. Every now and then with ours, um, I have to reset it. It'll tell me my tire pressure is low, and I check it, and it's not. And then I just hold the reset button down, and then it resets and it shows all the tire pressures. Now, the Mazda is 5 years old. Next month, in January, it'll be 5 years old. So I know those batteries, sometimes they'll last 10 years, sometimes they don't. But always have a tire gauge with you. Just, that's always good preventive measure. And it's harder and harder to find places that have free air now. I have one of those little 12-volt pumps that you plug it into your cigarette lighter, and it makes all kinds of noise, but it'll top off your tires if you have a leak, a slow leak, or you need a little bit of air. And in the wintertime, when it gets cold outside, your tires will lose 4 or 5 pounds of air. So, and a lot of cars on the door frame, it'll tell you to keep your tires at 36 pounds or 32 pounds or something like that. But you look on the tire and it'll say maximum inflation 44. I found that for tire life and fuel economy, it's best to have it closer to the maximum inflation. If your tire wears on the center, then you probably have too much air in it. If it wears on the corners first, your inflation's a little low. I always experience even tire wear. I put in 4 or 5 pounds more than what it says on the door placard because that's with the tires that came with the vehicle. If you have newer tires, the poundage will be higher. My pickup truck tires, I think they take like 48. So when I got inspected, they put them all at 36, and I looked at them and they had that bulge in there. So, and another thing, you'll see new car dealers will want to charge you money for nitrogen in your tires. the atmosphere is like 78% nitrogen anyway. So that's just a gimmick. That's a ripoff. Nitrogen might seep out a little slower than pure air will, but it's not worth, paying $500 for nitrogen filled tires or something like that. That's just a way dealerships will make money. And if you go to Costco, they'll have a free nitrogen for your tires anyway. You go to any Costco, you don't even have to be a member. Most of them, you just pull up in the parking lot and they have a pump outside, and it's nitrogen. So it might leak a little bit more slowly than regular air will. But yeah, just one of those things. There's a lot of other things with, some cars, they won't let you drive off if you don't have your seatbelt on. So if you're working on your own property, you're in a country club, you work on a ranch or something, and you're going really slowly, some cars will not start until you have your seatbelts fastened. I know my wife's Camry, if somebody's in the back seat and they don't have it on, it'll start chiming. My Ford just will go bing, bing, bing. And then, if I drive down the driveway to get the mail, it'll just do that at me, but it won't stop it or anything. But I always put my seatbelt on when I'm driving, except just if I'm going down to get the mail, then that's, I'm going 5 miles an hour. But another thing is the um, automatic headlights. The Camry, you can turn them off manually. The Mazda, you cannot turn off the headlights manually. And when we we had to go to the military base often. And when you come to a military base, you're supposed to dim down to your parking lights. Well, in some vehicles, you can't. If it senses it's dark outside, it's going to turn your headlights on. You can't turn them off until you come to a stop. So, the military police will be like, why didn't you dim your lights? And like, I can't, my car, it won't let me. And then they'll be like, okay. And I think they're realizing that a lot of cars come that way now. Some cars have daytime running lights as well. That in the Mazda you can shut those off, but in a lot of cars you can't. And the security people are becoming aware of that. But yeah, those are just some of the things that um, cars also don't have cigarette lighters anymore. Now I never smoked, but it was nice to have that option if you are a smoker and you partake in that habit. But now they have a 12-volt plug. But if you put a cigarette lighter in there, you're going to burn something out because it's not meant for the temperature. It's just a power outlet, even though they still call it a cigarette lighter. New cars do have a lot of cup holders, which is pretty nice. Back in the 70s, you didn't have a cup holder in a car. I remember my dad bought this thing that went over the transmission hump, and it had two bean bags on the side of it. And it was a trash can. It held change in it, and it did have a cup holder on it for his coffee cup. But cars don't have transmission humps anymore unless it's a rear-wheel drive vehicle of some sort. But yeah, it used to straddle the side of it, and he kept road maps in there and a little trash can, and I think he had a whisk broom for cleaning stuff out. But yeah, that's basically the size of it. So I've gone on long enough. So I hope everybody has a great day out there. And if you can think of another annoying feature on a new vehicle, go ahead and put it in the comments section. Take care, everybody. Peace.